and welcome to another episode of Around the House. I'm your host, Steve O'Brien, and on this show we talk about home improvement, home repair, anything to do around the house. And today's guest we're going to have in studio is Mr. Sean Callahan, and he is I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about what he does. He works for Able Restoration, and he's going to enlighten our viewers on different things they do as far as restoring fire damage, water damage, mold, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So let me introduce Sean. Hello, Sean. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me out.
I'm looking forward to this.
Great.
So tell our viewers, if you would, what it is you guys do and what your title is with Able Restoration.
Well, my name is Sean Callahan. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing for Able Restoration. We were founded in 1997, and our company specializes in water damage, fire damage, and mold remediation. We have another division of our company that does construction and renovation work, remodeling, and we also do mass save weatherization work, home energy assessments, and insulation.
And that's something we will touch on down the road, but in today's show, I'd like to talk a little bit about the moisture issues. First off, I know a couple of years ago there was a ton of moisture issues with all the snow we had, with the ice dams and the water backing up down the wall. Now, typically when a residential client would call you, they'd have you'd schedule someone to come out and look at the damage. And now, if there was water leaking through the ceiling, potentially there wouldn't be a mold issue right away, but you treat it as something you would have to go in and take it out, cut it out, dry it. How do you do that so there isn't a problem down the road?
Well, traditionally, we are called in after there's been a loss, a flood, an ice dam, or any sort of situation where water is penetrating the home. It's a tough situation on the residential side because it's a scary situation. Some homeowners have had never a claim, have never had water, have never had any sort of incident where their home has been hurt. What we try to do is slow it down and work with people so they understand what's going on. We have project managers. These are skilled men and women who are in the field daily. They get called to businesses and residences, and what they do is they come in, they'll take moisture readings, they try to reverse engineer where the water came. So for instance, you speak of ice dams, we know where the water came in, we can understand the reason why behind it. When the water gets into your home, we have two ways to attack it. If we can get in fast enough, we can dry it. We have dehumidifiers, we have fans, and we have other systems, desiccant trailers, which can dry the air out using chemicals to a point that we're just taking all the moisture right out. We take the moisture right out through the sheetrock, through the wood, through the plywood. Wow. We have the ability to drill into the cavities of the walls and extract the moisture as well. But getting back to your point, if the moisture is back there, it's a perfect place for mold to grow, and we typically find it after someone has had a water loss that they don't know about, that's had the ability just to fester. So
you can, at that point, when it gets to the point where the water issue, they didn't even realize they had a dampness problem, whatever, and you might see, and I've seen this in my trade, a lot of times you'll see at the bottom of the drywall, you'll see some little black dots, and that's usually typical of a moisture dampness type situation. And usually, I don't know if the painting of the drywall deters the mold as much, but I've noticed a little bit at the bottom, but when I take the drywall away from take it off the wall, the backside will be loaded with. That's probably because the air is trapped in there also and it can't breathe.
It's the drywall as a product is the perfect, I guess, gestation area for mold. It's dark, it's damp, and the paper the mold spores actually feed on. So if you can keep that contained, as drywall is on the backside, you have the perfect space to grow mold. Typically what we need to do is find out where the moisture is coming from. If you can't stop the moisture, you can't stop the mold. Right,
that makes sense. So mostly, if there's a leak, like in an upper floor, it's usually, you can trace it back to where the leak is, correct the leak situation, and dry out the area. But if it's in a basement and it's a full foundation, and it's a damp situation, I can almost go into someone's basement and tell you it's damp by the smell. You smell that musty smell that
absolutely.
I'm sure we've all smelt that. It's like a moldy, musty smell. Now they say when I say they, whoever, that mold can create a lot of illnesses, and the spores get in the air. But again, I don't know if you're into this end of it also, but like air ducts. There's companies that specialize in air duct cleaning, and I'm curious if that's something you guys, in other words, over the years, I know my parents had for years central air conditioning, and they tied into the existing heat ducts.
Right.
So of course, a lot of the ducts in the walls aren't insulated. So when you get a hot day, you know, the duct itself is going to sweat. And I'm thinking, this is my thought. Would that be a breeding ground for mold also inside of a duct where there's...
Could be. We do commercial and we do residential air duct cleaning, and what we're typically taking out of there, dirt, pollen, you know, debris, things to get pulled in through the air handler, pushed out, a little too heavy to make it through. On the other end, you mentioned the basement areas and the attic areas. That's typically where we come across mold. If you think about a basement, you have a few things going on there. You're below ground, you're always a little bit in a damp situation. If you have a recurring mold situation there, we can come out and remediate it. What we really need to do is find ways to maybe put in an industrial dehumidifier. So we're not talking anything for a commercial business, but something that's a step up from a 40-pint Home Depot special, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with. However, if you have a moisture issue, you could run that in perpetuity and it's not going to solve it for you. You want to take an attic, that might be a simpler way to talk about mold for a homeowner. If you have mold in your attic, it's typically because all of the moist air in your home is being sucked up and through stack effect. So you turn your heat on in the winter and guess what? It shoots right up through the walls and there it goes. It gets to your attic and it meets the cold air, and you know, on the sheathing it condenses, and there we have the ability for mold growth. So what we have to do in that situation is come in and treat the attic space for the result. So for instance, you have a cold, your nose is running. If we come in and change or clean up the mold and remediate the mold, we're only clearing off the sniffles of your cold. We need to get to the bottom underlying what's causing. That's typically done through air sealing and insulating to keep all of the air that you're paying to heat and cool down in your home and not in your attic. The biggest culprit for mold in the attic, unvented bath fans. Unvented bath fans?
People vent them in the attic. I've seen that. And so you're creating a perfect situation where warm air is going to hit the cold. And
Steve, it can't be any more perfect. It's the winter time, it's freezing cold, and you're taking a 10-minute shower because you're freezing cold, you've been shoveling for hours. Hot, moist air right up in the attic, right in the sheathing.
That's a good point that you make, because there are people that have done that and they don't think twice about, well, it's just going in the attic. But it might be all right in the summertime, but in the wintertime, now you got a problem. And the other thing that I have to do myself, shame on me, you know, what do they say? The shoemaker's family goes without shoes. Myself, I should have an insulated door in my attic crawl space where you have a door that gets into your attic. I can't have a pull-down staircase because my access panel is in a closet. And I just put a piece of plywood and drop it down in there. And I throw some insulation on top, but it's nothing. Now they make these, it's like a cone out of styrofoam that you can actually attach to something. And but that, again, you know, you have to almost weather seal the edges and everything else for it to be a tight fit. Because I'll go in the closet like lately, even the past few days, to get a sweatshirt out of the closet, and I can feel the cold air as soon as I open the door from the attic.
Yep. It's just waiting for you because it's getting right down and through.
I know when the heater starts up, that's where the heat's going to go, right up there. And shame on me, just shame on me. But that's another spot that I thought I'd mention could be an issue with heat loss through the attic door. But that's some good stuff. And again, the big thing today is, are these houses made, the newer homes made, too tight with all the insulation, the vapor barrier on the studs, or the vapor barrier on the insulation face. Then they put the Tyvek paper, or this really nothing can permeate. And I know they've even come out, and again, I haven't built a house in a long time, but I see these, the new sheathing they got out now, it's got some kind of a coating on it. And that, I think, is taking the place of the paper now. I don't see the paper.
And they tape all the seams all the way around.
And they do it on the roof, too. This is new technology, which is, you know, I'm like the old plow horse. I remember the old way of doing things. So, again, they're always trying to improve. Now here, this was my parents' house. It was probably built in the 50s, and I remember when we were shingling the roof, every once in a while you'd go to put a nail in it, it would just go into nothing. And they used the old 1x8 boards, and some of them had like a 1/2 inch space. And I mean, they never had a problem with mold or sweating in the ceiling or leaking. Ice dams, never had an ice dam. And I've probably lived there most of my young life. And even to this day, my mom's still there, and never had a problem with ice dams. So go figure. I just think sometimes maybe the houses today are just a little too on the tight side. And they do different things to circumvent that. They put in ridge vents, soffit vents. And again, we talked earlier about maybe putting in some kind of a fan up in your attic, up in the louver that's thermostatically controlled. But let's talk a little, let's kind of shift gears from mold, and we'll talk about, you do fire restoration.
Right.
Now what's that involved?
Fire restoration is probably one of the scariest parts of our day-to-day work, and it's scary because we really are meeting people at a terrible event.
Sure.
Fires are scary, fires are dangerous, and most of the time when we're out working with residents or businesses, it's typically right after the fire department's given us the clear to go in. And you talk about amazing people, the firefighters, the men and women that do that every day. Each and every time that we go out and we're coming right in on their heels, it's just amazing to see what they have to do just to make it safe enough. One, for the homeowner to at least go back in and assess, and then two, for us to go and do our work. But fire is very difficult, it's very dangerous work, it's very nasty work, and it's something where we have to bring a lot of value to the table. The work that we do, the labor that we do, helps people get back into the home. Our project managers work one-on-one with our customers, with their insurance companies. It's a very, very trying process where we have the experience working together doing this, but at the same time, we also know that to get from A to B isn't really a straight line all the time. Typically, we're called out by either the homeowner or someone else refers us as an expert in the field, and we come in right after the fire is out and we have the clear to enter, and we start with the basics, demo, taking out debris, getting soak, smoke-filled, soot-covered nastiness out of the home so the homeowner can reassess as what they have. We then start working with the insurance company to find out what coverage is in place and where we should start looking to either put the home together, rebuild it. You know, are there parts that we can save? Are there things that we can do internally? And we were discussing blasting with soda blasting, sand blasting, or dry ice blasting to take off the smoke and the soot from framing members and such. You know, are there soft goods in the home that we could save? People have cherished pillows, blankets, dolls that they've had all their lives. Can we bring it back to our shop and put it through our cleaning processes that we have in-house just over in Brockton to help clean the products? A lot of folks think when they have a fire, everything's a complete and total loss. I mean, a lot of times things are a loss, and we have to understand that, you know, we need to give space to the customer to allow to let it go. If they want to try to save it, we have the equipment to do that. But working from start to finish on a fire and a fire reconstruction, it's one of our more challenging business lines. You know, luckily for us, we're local. We've been at it since 1997. You know, we have a whole construction division, so right after we get out of the demo and the taking out of the nasty, wet, smoky, we can get right back into reconstruction. So
you guys deal with basically general contracting. You hire the electricians, or do you have them on staff, or you subcontract to plumbers and that kind of stuff too? So
our role in the process is to get people from A to Z, and we do assume the role of a general contractor. Depending on the size of the job, will, you know, tell us what trades we need to bring in. If it's a large rebuild, we'll need all the trades. We have folks on staff ready to go where we can work with you on a smaller fire, but a smaller fire would be something like a puff back in your boiler or your furnace, where it's the soot and the smoke gets sent back into your house, but there wasn't heavy charring. It could be something left on the stovetop. When, for instance, I have 2 small kids, when I run outside to go find my children to bring them in, you know, things like that that happen to homeowners each and every day, we're able to cover internally ourselves right out of the gate. If it's a large fire, a lot of trades involved, we become the GC, and then we have trusted vendors that we work with to help us, you know, bring the home back to where it should be.
So you pretty much take a lot of the stress from the homeowner where you're able to go in there and do the demo and deal with, you deal with the insurance company, deal with the contractors, so the homeowner pretty much doesn't have to worry about a heck of a lot at that point. Not that they should. They've had enough trauma in their life. So that's a great thing. And you don't find any specific time of the year where that's more prevalent with fire, mostly in the summers, in the heating season?
The heating season is important for us to be vigilant. Fires strike at any time. A lot of times the fires that we'll have will come in the middle of the night, they'll come late. The winter time's always a bad time for electric heaters to let go and or overloaded plugs, electrical fires. Those are smoky, nasty, really acidic fires where the smoke just kind of etches into everything.
Yeah, and I've gone into some fire situations before, and I you know, even after they did, it wasn't you guys, but I don't know if they hired it out to private firms, but it still didn't smell right. I could still smell a little smoke, whether it be from whatever. But that's the biggest thing. It's got such a strong smell to it, that burnt, charred smell, and that you can actually, like you say, you have a spray that you put on that, and there's probably stuff that you just, in other words, if you don't have to knock down the exterior walls, you would probably, you know, just encapsulate that smell before you re-sheetrock.
We would use encapsulants. We have ozone generators that emit ozone. It actually goes out, and if you want to envision like you know, just grabbing the air molecule that has the smell, we have those machines. So other chemicals and products and sponges, chemical sponges that we use that actually have the ability to take the smoke and soot off of the structure. So you're taking that ability to smell down the road off the structure. But getting back to one point that you made, you know, as a company, Able does everything that it can to help the customers get through the fire process. It's a terrible process, and you know, we have experience doing it, which makes it easier for us to be the calmer head in the process. Right. But it really is a dance between ourselves, you know, our customers, our clients, the insurance companies, and the ability to get through the project. It's not easy, and it's something that we pride ourselves on doing. At the same time, we don't claim that it's a smooth process. We know that we have to work together to get there. It's difficult.
Well, I'll bet you it is, and it's an awful thing to have to go through, and I hope I never have to go through it. Knock on wood. I've been very, very lucky. My house was hit by lightning at one time. I had some minor damage, but it was mostly electrical components. It wasn't anything. Didn't, you know? But I see a lot of times a house will get hit by a lightning bolt or what have you, and next thing you know, there's a little fire in the attic or something like that. But I sometimes. And it's not a laughing matter. I don't mean to be laughing, but there'll be a fire, and most of the damage comes from the water from the firefighters. Sure. I mean, they have to do their job, obviously, but then that's again, you would come in, say there was minimal fire damage, but majority of it was from the water coming through the ceiling. And the
water is the natural result of the fire, and typically one comes with the other. Right. Right now, we're in Plymouth at a very large water loss that started from a fire. It was a restaurant that had a fire.
Did they have sprinkler systems?
It was the sprinklers, and the fire department did a fantastic job of putting it out immediately. Now again, that's water. That's a lot of water. That's focused, directed water, which everything goes down and ends up in the basement. So there we have pump trucks. We have portable pumps. We have people using something called a garbage pump, where you have these large tubes that can move massive amounts of water out. Wow. That's even before we can start to dry. The fire departments have to do what they have to do to get these out. Yeah. It's our responsibility to get the water out. Yeah. The water is very difficult for us because if it's the wintertime, if we don't get it out, that's going to freeze. Typically after a fire in the wintertime, you have no heat. Oof. A lot of times we'll get called to residences in the winter that have had sprinkler snaps, boiler line snap, window left open, door left open. boom, the elbow gives out, they're away for the weekend, and the basement's loaded with 9 inches of water. You know, that could take us 10 hours to pump out with 2 pump trucks.
Wow.
At the same time, if we don't get it out, what are we looking at? Mold, you know, the home could be a total loss.
And you have to dry it out and everything, the whole process. After you drain it out, you have to still
drain it out, squeegee it out, get as much moisture out as possible, and then we come in and drive fans, dehumidifiers, desiccant trailers. We have the ability to go behind your trim, drill holes, and we have these dehumidification machines that actually go into little holes that can get behind the walls.
So you don't have to tear the whole wall apart.
Our goal is not to tear the wall. If we can get there soon enough and we can start drying soon enough, our goal is to constantly moisture map, take moisture readings, find out how we're coming down. If we can get it down and we don't have to cut it, that's better for us, much better for the customer.
Oh, good. Just put a little spackle over the holes. You're all set, good to go.
Faster we can start drying, typically the lower the claim is.
Wow, that's excellent. So you guys go in there, you know, looking to do it as inexpensive for the homeowner or the commercial client as possible. And
our goal is to get the customer in and out as fast as possible, which ends up being the least expensive way to do it.
Excellent. That's why you guys have been in business for so long. 1997. Hopefully you'll have another 20 or 30 years in business.
Well, we'd like to.
It sounds like you're really on the right track, because I remember you used to be in a small location in Rockland, and you tell me now that you're in Brockton. Why don't you explain to everybody why one of the reasons why you moved to a larger location?
It's actually a great story. We had a wonderful spot on Longwater. It was right in the Norwell-Rockland line. It was fantastic. We had the opportunity to purchase a building in Brockton. The owner of our company, is a Massachusetts resident, lives down in Plymouth, loves staying around here, loves investing in the community. We had this chance to buy a building large enough for our trucks to sleep inside in the wintertime. And oftentimes when you tell people you work in a 90,000 square foot building, they say, well, what do you do? And I share with them what we do, and they can't quite figure it out. And then I know it's my fault because I didn't explain it. In the wintertime, when we can have our trucks and our equipment sleep inside when it's warm, we have faster response time. So all of our trucks, all of our equipment are inside, they're warm, and they're ready to go. At 2 in the morning and 3 in the morning when people need us and they call the 800 hotline, we can roll a project manager and our crews to them as quickly as possible.
Wow.
So everything has a reason, but it's, it's fantastic.
Well, that's incredible.
Another reason is we own all of our own fans and drying units, all of our own dehus and desiccants, all of our generators, all the things that we own, so we don't have to rent them from other companies or borrow them. We're ready to go.
And they're already loaded on the truck.
Ready to go.
So your response time is like cut in half.
Ready to go.
That's fantastic. And that's probably why, you know, again, that you're so successful, because you seem to be, you know what to have, what to do, what not to do to make it easier for the consumer. One quick thing I want to touch on, Sean, because we're running short on time, but I want to, something that I've heard and thought about, but when you're doing a mold, they call it a remediation, is that the right word? When you're removing mold from a home, however it might be, can the homeowners still live in the home, or do they have to take a week or so and go to a hotel or something like that?
Sure. Our typical mold job is a day long, 8 to 10 hours, and most of the time we're in the attics. So what we'll do is we'll bring HEPA filters with us, and we'll set them up so we can create negative pressure so everything stays up in the attic. We'll have poly, 6 mil poly set up for a containment with zip pulls, and then we head up there. We ask that the customers not come into the contained area while we're working. You can stay home. A lot of folks want to leave. There's a smell. Depending on how we're remediating, typically it would be an antimicrobial, so we're going to go in there and kill the mold. And then if people want us to remove the staining, which you see it with your eyes, we can do that as well. We can do that while you're home. If you want to leave, that's fine. But typically when we set up the negative pressure and we set up the containment, everything stays up north in the attic.
So your guys are all in hazmat suits with the respirators and everything?
They'll have full shields.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be working on that all the time. Wow, that's something I really, you know, I worked years ago on a commercial property, and I was doing some, I was working for a construction outfit, and this was a big building. It was 7 stories, and what they were doing is they were retrofitting. It became law that they, you know, they had to, if there wasn't sprinklers in the building, they had to retrofit it with sprinklers. So it was a hard plaster ceiling, but once they got into the building, they realized there was a lot of asbestos up in the pipes. And they had this company come in, an abatement company, and they had to go, you know, do the same thing you said. They put up a, what do you call it, curtain wall, or what do you call it?
We call it containment, the zip wall.
Containment wall.
Yep.
and they had a lot of those containment areas, and they were removing the asbestos from the pipes and the HEPA filters. They had to vacuum it, and it was quite a process to do. But again, mold. From what I know of a guy personally I met who had, and I don't mean to scare anybody out there, please, but he had some serious problems with one of his lungs. He got an infection, and they told him it was due to, and he doesn't know where it came from. They said it was due to the mold issue, and that's what caused the fungus.
For us, as a company, when we speak with our customers, a lot of times we walk in and we tell them that we can help them with their mold, and there's a relief because we find that people are hiding from it. They don't know where it came from, what it's going to do to them. So let's just leave it up in the attic where it is. When
we don't go up in the attic, right?
Right. When we can come in, you know, take a look at it, have a project manager go through, come up with a scope of action, and then we go from A to Z. We follow protocols and we get it done. And then when we leave, there's that huge release where, why didn't we do this years ago? And that's good for us as a company. It's also, it doesn't hurt to call us. We come out all the time to take a look at what people think is mold in their homes, and it's not, and that's not a problem either.
Is that something insurance would cover?
Insurance covers some mold work. It depends, you know, where it came from. It's a result of the ice dams that we had 2 years ago. Typically, that's covered.
I had some water damage many years ago, very minor. It was due to condensation on a skylight, and it buckled the hardwood floor. So I called my insurance company, and I said, you know, I'm going to have the hardwood floor you can't just patch it. You have to have a pro come in. I mean, I could have done it, but I said, why not use insurance, you know? And they have to splice the hardwood back in. And well, I think a year later, they canceled me, and I said, what happened? They said, well, you claim something about you've been flagged, and all these insurance companies knew it. And I said, well, what do you mean I've been flagged? Well, once they see water damage, they worry about mold. So a lot of insurance companies, as soon as you have water damage, they either, I don't know, I mean, I'm not getting into a battle with the insurance companies, but what I'm saying is, I know if I put in a claim for water, the insurance companies are going to be freaking out because the next thing from water is mold.
Right.
But let me cut it short at that because we really are running low on time. Very, very informative show. I could have gone on for another half hour. But what I'd like to, maybe if you'd be able to do this,
Thank you.
Is we can go to a location at some point, and you guys do energy audits.
Yes, we do. We work on the Mass Save program.
I think that would be a great show, and I think my viewers would get a lot out of it. So maybe down the road, sometime soon, if you're available and you're willing, we could get to a location somewhere which is convenient for you, maybe, and we can walk our viewers through what is actually involved in a home energy audit, which is pretty big today. A lot of people doing that. I have a lot of questions about it myself, and maybe down the road I might do it on my own house. So I'd be interested to see what's involved.
Happy to help. Let's make it happen.
All right, Sean.
Thank
it
you,
was
Steve.
great having
Appreciate
you
it
today. Really good having you.
Thank you very much.
Do you want to tell the viewers any information that might be helpful, your website, a place where they can get in touch with you guys?
Absolutely. We can be reached at 781-335-0000 during the day. Our website is www.able911.com. And if you have questions about home energy assessments, you can reach us at myenergyaudit@able911.com. Fantastic.
And I'm finisheddimensions.com, or you can email me at finisheddimensions@yahoo.com, and look for me on YouTube. As always, thanks for joining us. Great show tonight. I hope everybody got something out of that. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Around the House.